one of the discussion points last night, and it was, I think, a sign of things to come as far as debate for the year goes. We offered an amendment, a proposal, to try to do something about property taxes. And it's fine. Republicans are very supportive of putting more aid to our local school districts and ensuring their kids have a good education is one of our top priorities. But we differed with the Democrats on this notion that we needed to saddle Iowa property taxpayers with another $45 million in property taxes. That's why we offered the amendment that the state general fund should pick it up. Now, today, which means today, I got to add 45 more marbles to the jar. The General Assembly last night, the Democrats made a decision in rejecting our amendment. The property taxpayers were going to have to pay another $45 million in the coming year. And we believe that that's an issue that Iowans should be concerned about. We know that we hear about it when we go home on the weekends and talk with our constituents. Certainly hear about it from every business group that comes down to the Capitol to talk about, what's going on in Iowa's economy. Maybe they're just not talking to their Democratic legislators, but they're sure talking to the Republicans.
What can you guys pledge to do if you're in the majority? Specifically, I mean, that's always been kind of the hang-up is whether you can come up with some type of big property tax.
For starters, Charlotte, we did several different things, okay? We passed a bill when we were in the majority, and we would pass it again, that would solve half of that problem. The notion that we tie all classifications, be it residential, commercial, industrial, and agriculture. According to the Service Bureau, that would make half of our problem go away overnight because we would stop this rapid increase in valuation. Second thing that we believe needs to be done is to actually have local governments vote on their property tax levy, as opposed to just certifying a budget and that generates the levy amount, that they need to actually vote on what the levy is. Thirdly, Republicans believe the state should pick up more of the share of education rather than asking property taxpayers to pay more. I mean, there's some very clear differences that we've been talking about for the last year, and we'll continue to suggest to Iowans there are better ways for us to do business.
Last night's the prayer reading and questions about that tradition in the house, or
I think it's a good tradition that we should maintain. I appreciate the fact that, because when I heard the prayer on opening day, I did a double take when I heard that language used. Not really sure what it meant, but to be honest, I didn't worry about it a lot afterwards. Other things like property taxes and education and healthcare were on my mind. But I appreciate Representative Abdul-Samad's call for openness and let's talk about those kinds of things. And I certainly appreciate Representative Worthen's point that that language can be misinterpreted and why some people did find it offensive. So I tend to think that it's an issue that's been dealt with now, and we'll all move on. There are bigger issues to deal with, like property taxes and healthcare and improving education standards. And apparently this weekend, I think our members are going to go home. They're going to hear about a couple different things at their forums and Cracker Barrel events. First and foremost, I think there'll be a lot of discussion from Main Street merchants about whether or not this General Assembly is going to send all of their patrons to casinos. With the bill that came out of Commerce Committee this week, makes a real clear point that if Iowans want to go out and have a drink and smoke, you can't go to your neighborhood bar anymore. You're going to have to go to the casino. Now, in parts of Iowa where they don't have those choices, they just won't be going out. In parts of Iowa where they do have those choices, it really creates a very unlevel playing field. I mean, in a community like Sioux City or Davenport or Dubuque or Council Bluffs going down the list, the bill that came out of Commerce Committee pits those Main Street tavern owners, restaurant owners against the casinos. And I imagine that'll be a hot topic at everybody's forums this week. And we've encouraged our members to ask for input from their constituents and see where that goes. The other issue I think that will get a lot of attention at everybody's forums this week will be the whole question of how we fund road construction. Now that Representative Huser has released a bill for the Transportation Committee to look at, and it's my understanding that they'll be going over that bill section by section today in the Transportation Committee. I think that that's going to generate a lot of discussion about whether or not this is a good way to fund road construction projects, whether it's a bad way, do we really need to do it? I think there'll be a lot of discussion this weekend as Iowans get a look at that bill and decide if that's something they like or don't like.
What's your impression of that bill?
Well, I have very mixed emotions. I mean, I'm very concerned about funding our infrastructure, but I don't know that this is the best way to do it. I appreciate the fact the governor took the gas tax off the table, but the notion that we're going to only tax Iowans, I think that's problematic. And I think that the method in which they've decided to tax pickup trucks is also problematic. So I'm going to go back to my constituents and ask them for their input. I mean, that's what I've continually done in Sioux City, is I've gone back and asked my folks, you know, we obviously have two very big construction projects that my constituents are interested in, Highway 20 and I-29 corridor reconstruction. And I have asked them, do you think that this is a proper method of funding it? So far, the verdict is out because we haven't had a bill to really discuss. But I imagine I'm going to hear a lot this weekend.
Do you have better ideas? I mean, assuming that you have to pay for highway construction projects somehow, do you have a different idea about how to pay for it?
We've laid other ideas on the table. I think the first recommendation that the interim study came up with, the interim study committee talked about, that was a mix of registration fees and some sort of fuel taxes, might have been better, might have been more equitable, but it's clear that that's not out there. I mean, I think this is sort of a take it or leave it kind of proposition. Before us, the governor's made clear he isn't going to do anything else. Although the governor, to be honest, hasn't made it clear whether or not he'll support this bill. So there are a lot of unanswered questions out there, but from our perspective, it's not one that Republicans are going to try to cause problems on this bill or anything. I think it's very much a take it or leave it proposition for us, and people are going to have to go home and decide if it's a proposition they want to take or leave.
You said you appreciate the governor taking the fuel tax off the table, yet that is the one.
I understand that the governor took.
So that was not a choice of word. When you said appreciate, you mean that you know it's off.
I understand that it's off the
So
table.
you think that maybe the fuel tax, because it does tax at least out-of-state Iowans who travel on our roads, might have made more sense?
I think it's more equitable.
Does the fact that the pickup truck increases, for example, in a lot of the different provisions in Jerry's bill are grandfathered in so that
Well, I think that, and that's a good attempt that I think will make the bill more palatable to folks because everything is prospective. It's sort of a buyer beware notion. Everybody knows going in now that if you purchase this truck, this is what it's going to be taxed on. If you purchase this car, this is the way it's going to be taxed. So nobody who currently owns a vehicle will see any change. I think that is a good attempt to make the bill more palatable to Iowans.
do you think that there should still be brakes for agricultural trucks or trucks that are used in,
I think that is the issue that will engender the most debate. I think that's the thing that most people will go back and say, is this fair or is this not fair? Because it's not just agriculture trucks, okay? It also applies, that provision also applies to trucks that people use for business in the city. Aren't being used for farm purposes, it'll apply to trucks that are being used inside the city. So you might have your pharmaceutical rep that throws all their supplies and samples and pamphlets in the back of their car, and they're going to pay full weight and value on that. And if they throw all their pamphlets and supplies and things like that in the back of their pickup truck, in the camper, well, then they'll, pay $100. So some disparity still is out there, and I think a lot of Iowans are starting to ask, why does that disparity exist?
What's your take on those brakes?
I think it's problematic. I have a difficult time being able to explain to folks in the urban area why that continues to be the case.
Aren't you not taking a stand, though? This is
I'm
problematic.
really trying hard.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
But that's,
Here's what.
Democrats are mad at the governor, and Republicans are too, for not leading on this.
Okay.
So give us
But here's
your
the
own
thing,
idea.
okay? But here's the deal. We're not the majority party, okay? There are some things that we're going to bring to the table and make suggestions and constructive criticisms on. I'm trying not to turn this into a partisan debate, okay? I'm trying very hard not to turn this into a partisan debate. It is one that has to be decided by individual legislators about what they hear from their constituents and what's in the best interest of their district, okay? And so I understand that when I say things because of my position, that it tends to suddenly politicize the issue. I am trying very hard not to politicize the issue.